attention to what his guests were saying. He just had his cards in front of him, and he didn't care what the guest was saying. Um, Larry King would just sit there and listen, and he would sort of let those interviews take him where the guest led them. And I always thought that that was a really, really important skill to have as a broadcasting, as a broadcaster. Plus, he would also cover topics, Larry King would, that a lot of other people wouldn't cover. He had over the years covered UFO stories. If you want to go back and look at some mainstream media actual coverage of some of those big topics, Larry King was one of the first to really dive deep into those topics when he had his show on CNN. So, yeah, broadcasting legend Larry King passing away. It was a bit of breaking news this morning before our show started, so I want to bring it to you. So good to see everyone on this Saturday. Nice to see everyone here joining us. Let me know where you guys are joining us from here in the chat. Good to see everyone. Yeah, we're going to talk some stimulus this morning. The president signing some executive orders. So we'll wait till everyone kind of joins us. I'm drinking a nice little iced coffee this morning. Reach over here because I've got this new camera set up, so I have to sit way back further from my camera and desk that I would like to yesterday. Yes, Hank Aaron died yesterday. He was also 87. And I think Larry King was, going back to, I think Larry King was in Ghostbusters, wasn't he? I think they had him featured in Ghostbusters, one of my favorite movies of all time. Horsham, Pennsylvania, Tampa Bay, hello from New York, Carol and Greason. Some of you, by the way, who won your free Grover mugs, those are being sent out, so almost all of them should now be sent out, which is great. And our brand new, our Come On Man mugs. Come on, man! Thank you. By the way, as you see, we had our first come on man of the Biden presidency when he was asked the other day, this 100 million doses, is that not ambitious enough? To which Biden answered to the reporter and said, come on, man, I was waiting for it. We had our very first one of the Biden presidency. And he said, come on, man, cut me some slack. All of you reporters were telling me a few weeks ago that 100 million doses is crazy talk. There's no way you can get 100 million doses. He said, come on, man, cut me some slack. Come on, man. Can't wait for more come on mans throughout the presidency. Can't wait for that. So good morning, everyone. All right, let's get to some of this big stimulus news. And I'm going to open it up for some Q&A here a little bit later. So get in any questions you have. We'll be taking your super chats later here as well as any other chats that flow through. So we're going to be diving into some of these details this morning on stimulus front. And let's get to it. So President Biden last night signed 2 executive orders on Friday, one of which would increase the federal food assistance program. We talked about that here on the show, the SNAP food assistance program and school lunches. And he would also streamline the delivery of those stimulus checks, because those stimulus checks, those $600 ones that went out, there's been all sorts of mistakes and problems with those as they were rolling out. Before President Trump left, a lot of these stimulus checks went out and they ended up going into the wrong bank accounts. So the president signed an executive order to streamline that process. He's hoping to stabilize the economy without any congressional assistance. He wants to do this through these executive actions because we have this massive fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. He was specifically asked, or Jen Psaki, his press secretary, was specifically asked about, if there's a trial for President Trump in the next 2 weeks, is that going to derail his programs? And she said no, he hopes not, that they can walk and chew gum at the same time. So focusing on coronavirus pandemic and also passing meaningful legislation as soon as they can. So he says we have to act now. President Biden said in a few remarks before he signed the orders, he said we will not let people go hungry. This is what the president had said. He said he proposed a $1.9 trillion relief plan to Congress. But right now, it's, I got to say, it's unclear on whether it's going to have any Republican support or how much Republican support he actually even needs to pass this on a bipartisan basis. I know that he's saying that he wants to work with Republicans. I know he's saying that. Does he need to? He's only saying that because it's the right thing to say. He's only saying that because he has so many stinking Republican friends over the years who he's served with in the Senate. Sorry, my Philadelphia attitude is coming out. So until Congress is able to pass another relief bill, Biden's actions are intended sort of as a stopgap measure to sort of stabilize the economy. So this executive action package is not meant to be anything huge. It's meant to just stabilize things, get these checks out, raise the federal minimum wage, raise the food stamps program, make sure that people have access to those school lunch program, to get money into the hands of people who are suffering right now, to make sure that they have nutrition and they're not going hungry. I had an email last night from one of you who sent me an email, said, has there been any discussion about hunger and homelessness? And I said, yes. Obviously you wrote to me and said, I see these tent cities, I see tents popping up now where people are losing their homes. And yes, that's exactly what Bernie Sanders has been talking about, and that's what President Biden has also been talking about. So this order right now would just streamline the delivery of stimulus checks for those who haven't received it. So, okay, it's sad that we actually even need an executive order to pass direct stimulus payments that were already passed. Like, do you want to sign another executive order on top of that one? Congress passed that bill to provide $600 in direct payments for Americans under a certain threshold last month. Where the heck are the checks? How many of you have still not received your stimulus check? Let me know in the chat right now, are you still waiting on this $600 thing? Biden supports increasing the payments to $2,000. So will he ask Congress to pass legislation providing these additional direct checks? If he's going to go at $1,400, we're going to see. I think that's where he's leaning right now, but he's getting pushback from internally from people like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other members of Congress who want him to go bigger on this. President Biden also issued a second executive order yesterday to improve collective bargaining power and protections for federal workers, so that it's right out of the Office of Personnel and Management that would develop recommendations to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. So federal minimum wage now at 15. Bernie Sanders the other day saying the $7.25 an hour is absolutely a poverty wage. So here's President Biden calling for these additional changes in this new round of executive actions. Take a listen.
The American Rescue Plan also includes economic relief for most Americans who are in need. We're going to finish the job of getting a total of $2,000 in direct payments to folks. $600, which was already passed, is simply not enough. If you still have to choose between paying your rent, putting food on the table. We'll extend unemployment insurance benefits for millions of workers beyond the deadline that's now set. It means that 16 million Americans who are currently relying on unemployment benefits while they look for work can count on these checks continuing to be there in the middle of this crisis. The American Rescue Plan also addresses the growing housing crisis in America. Approximately 14 million Americans, 14 million, have fallen behind on rent, and many risk eviction. If we fail to act, there will be a wave of evictions and foreclosures in the coming months as this pandemic rages on, because there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic in the next several months. So look, this would overwhelm emergency shelters and increase COVID-19 infections as people have nowhere to go and can't socially distance. The American Rescue Plan asks Congress to provide rental assistance for millions of hard-hit families and tenants. This will also be a bridge to economic recovery for countless mom-and-pop landlords who can't afford not to have the rent. But they can't wait. So on Inauguration Day, I directed my administration to extend nationwide restrictions on evictions and foreclosures. These crises are straining the budgets of states and cities and tribal communities that are forced to consider layoffs and service reductions among essential workers. Police officers, firefighters, first responders, nurses are all at the risk of losing their jobs. Over the last year, more than 600,000 educators have lost their jobs in cities and towns. The American Rescue Plan will provide emergency funding to keep these essential workers on the job and maintain essential services. Look, it will also help small businesses that are the engines of our economic growth. When you say small business, most people think the major corporate entities are the ones that hire everybody. These small businesses are the glues that hold, and they're important, but these small businesses hold the community, the glue that hold these communities together. They are hurting badly, and they account for nearly half of the entire U.S. workforce. Nearly half. Our rescue plan will provide flexible grants to help the hardest hit small businesses survive the pandemic, and low-cost capital to help entrepreneurs of all backgrounds create and maintain jobs, plus provide essential goods and services that communities so desperately depend on. Look, our recovery plan also calls for an increase in the minimum wage at least $15 an hour. No one in America should work 40 hours a week, making below the poverty line. $15 gets people above the poverty line. We have so many millions of people working 40 hours a week, working, some with 2 jobs, and they're still below the poverty line. Our plan includes access to affordable child care. That's going to enable parents, particularly women, to get back to work. Millions who are not working now because they don't have that care. All told, the American Rescue Plan would lift 12 million Americans out of poverty and cut child poverty in half. That's 5 million children lifted out of poverty. Our plan would reduce poverty in the black community by 1/3, and reduce poverty in the Hispanic community by almost 40%. I look forward to working with members of Congress of both parties to move quickly to get this American Rescue Plan to the American people.
But of course, the real question now is, and some people are wondering, some Republicans are questioning whether they'll work with the president on this. They've questioned overall whether there's any need for a second larger relief bill after Congress passed the $900 billion bill back in December. And here is the front page this morning of the Washington Post. Turned off by Biden's approach, GOP opposition to stimulus relief intensifies. Biden may find he can get a big plan or a bipartisan plan, but not both. But what does he want? I say I'd rather have the big plan. Screw the bipartisan plan. I really don't give a rat's behind. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care for him to be working with Republicans on this. We've gotten burned by them. How many times can you put your hand on a fire? Oh, okay. Let me try. Where's that flame again? Ow! Let me try it again, because maybe that was an anomaly. Ow! How many times can you do it? We're trying to work with Republicans. But, in his remarks on Friday, Biden said that the most recent relief bill was just a down payment, the $900 billion one. But a lot of Republicans are like, I don't know that we want to even spend this additional money. Why would we want to spend this additional money? Mitt Romney saying, I want to see what's in this plan, but obviously I know it's a lot of money. Roy Blunt from Missouri coming out and saying, this is probably a non-starter, a $2 trillion non-starter. So what are your concerns then? Like, where do you want money to go, Republicans, or not at all? You're happy that these big businesses and Wall Street continue to get their bailouts, but when people are homeless and starving and cannot get food on the table and have had their hours cut, they can't pay for their medications. How many of you watching right now joined us on our show last night? Show of hands. Or actually, just smash that like button if you were here last night on our live show on Friday night. Many of you told me how much you're paying for your medications. And it was astonishing. My wife was watching and she said, I saw some people saying they're paying $400 for an inhaler? A little plastic piece of crap inhaler? $400? And the rest of Europe for prescription drugs? Covered? I mean, again, this is ridiculous. So what do Republicans want? So do they need to work with Republicans at all? Bernie Sanders says, no, we don't.
Now, I would hope that Republicans understand the severity of the crisis we're in right now. But if they do not, we have, as you know, budget reconciliation. Budget reconciliation is a Senate process that the Republicans use to give tax breaks to the rich. They use it to try to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Well, I'm going to be chairman of the Budget Committee. We're going to use it in a very different way, in a way that protects working families and the middle class, not just the rich.
Here you go, Bernie. We don't need you, Republicans. So you can quit your whining. Frankly, don't care. I don't care. I will call out either side that does not want to help the American people. I'll call out Joe Manchin if he doesn't get his act together and pass meaningful stimulus. I will call out anybody right now who does not push for this progressive agenda. These people won members. These people who ran in the House of Representatives won congressional seats, running on issues like Medicare for all, universal basic income, stimulus. The list goes on. The people that lost under Nancy Pelosi's watch in the House were middle-of-the-road moderates. Those people lost. So this nation right now wants health care, wants a minimum wage raised, wants debt reduction across the board, wants student loan forgiveness,
Of course.
and wants jobs, and reopening schools, and vaccine distribution, and an infrastructure so you can drive on roads that aren't crumbling. President Biden's pitch for bipartisan unity to defeat the coronavirus and sort of resurrect the economy is crashing right now into this Republican buzzsaw, as the Washington Post called it, where Republicans and Democrats can't seem to agree on any ground rules for running the Senate right now, let alone passing $1.9 trillion stimulus. So they are going to hit a wall on this, as I mentioned last night, on any kind of stimulus bill. So Biden's relief package is being declared dead on arrival already by senior Senate Republicans. Some of whom say there has been little, if any, outreach from Team Biden to get their support on any of this. But liberals, like myself, progressives like myself, are demanding that the president just abandon these attempts to try to get a bipartisan deal through. What do we care? How many times have Republicans stonewalled, rolled right over Democrats over the years, to ram through massive tax breaks for the wealthy, expansions and rollbacks of environmental regulations, didn't ask for Democratic support, expanding extra benefits and bailouts for Wall Street, expanding defense budget and bailouts for the defense industry. Why should they? I mean, how many of you think right now, let me know in the chat, think that Democrats should work or worry about Republicans? Really, the question is, do you want a big stimulus package or do you want a bipartisan stimulus package? What do you want? Right now, a lot of outside groups are weighing in on this and turning up pressure on Biden and Democrats who control Congress to just get economic relief out there quickly, even if it means cutting off Republicans. Get them out of this deal. Good. That's where I come down on this. Lewis, you dropped a chat message here a few minutes ago. I was listening to Biden's speech here, but Lewis asked, he said, where can I get the phone numbers of all of these different members of Congress so I can call their offices and tell them and demand that they pass stimulus? That's very easy to do. You can just search for your member of Congress, just search for your member of Congress and their phone number, or you can go to house.gov or senate.gov, and all of that information is right there on those different websites. So in the face of these competing pressures right now, President Biden may have to discover that he can get a big COVID-19 stimulus bill, one that he does himself with Democratic support, or a bipartisan deal. But you're not going to get both. So, and this is an important moment for Biden because, the president has to choose right now his first major piece of legislation. It could set the tone for the remainder of his term in office. Can he make good on trying to unify Congress and the country? I think it's one thing to unify the country. It's quite another thing to try to unify Congress. I don't really care at all if Ted Cruz is unified.
Right.
I don't care if Josh Hawley is unified. I don't care if Ted Cruz feels good about anything other than his hair grease. I don't care if Mitch McConnell feels good about anything. I care if Americans stop insurrections. I care if Americans stop spray painting people's houses because they have a Trump sign in their yard. I care about that. But I don't care if Ted Cruz feels good. Here's something that one member of Congress said. It's important that Democrats deliver for America. If the best path is that to do away with Republicans, and they can bring Republicans along on all of that, then I'm in favor of that. That's what Senator Elizabeth Warren said. She went on to say, but if Republicans want to cut out, back to the point that we're not delivering what needs to be done for the American people, I'm quoting, she says that we need to be prepared for us to fight them. Our job is to deliver for the American people, Elizabeth Warren said. A bunch of top aides have come out on the Biden team and say that Biden is serious about wanting a bipartisan deal. And I totally believe that he wants to work with Republicans. He has a long relationship with them. He's been friends with Lindsey Graham and others for years in the Senate. He was a senator for a long, long time. But, they say that this should be achievable. His White House aides say that this should be achievable given the magnitude of the economic and health crisis in the country. But Republicans are already saying that they're not going to be standing on this. Some Democrats have already expressed some optimism in the GOP frustration with Trump. They're happy that the GOP is going to possibly move to impeach and convict President Trump and bar him from ever running for office again. That line is approaching now in the Senate among Mitch McConnell. That could convince some Republicans to do more with Democrats, give a fresh start. Especially since so many of these lawmakers from the Senate know Vice President, know Biden, friends for so long. There is that back and forth relationship. But when Biden's relief plan came in at $2 trillion this month, and it had a lot of liberal priorities in there, like raising the federal minimum wage, Republicans jumped all over this thing and said, nah, they're not serious about working with Republicans. They would clearly not be serious about working with us as Republicans if there's a large increase to the federal minimum wage. Even those Republicans who've suggested they're opening to making a deal have totally made it clear that the package would need to undergo some significant changes. Like Roy Blunt, like I said, Roy Blunt said, quote, I suspect that this entire package is a non-starter, he says. He says, but it's got plenty of starters in it. And a lot of them are things that we proposed in terms of more assistance to the states. So there is some back and forth on this. He was specifically talking about vaccine distribution and money for the Centers for Disease Control. He said, quote, there are things in this thing that aren't going to happen. And then there's things that can happen. And that's how this process should work, he says. I don't think so. I'm going to say it right now, because if you're going to cut crap out of here that doesn't actually help the American, that is supposed to help the American people, and you're going to remove it because you're worried about how much costs it's going to incur, when you're fine passing a $900 billion stimulus, or money for the military budget, and $4 trillion for Wall Street, then that's garbage. Senator Rob Portman, Republican from Ohio, who, as you know, was instrumental in kind of stepping up and objecting to the last round of stimulus, said, I have not personally heard from the White House, and I'm disappointed in that. Not about me, he said, but about you know. He said, it's about one thing to talk about outreach. It's another thing to do it. I'm so sad for Rob Portman of Ohio. I'm sorry they're not calling you. I'm sorry. You guys were constantly reaching out to Democrats,
Can't even
right?
spell.
When they wanted to pass stimulus, you were constantly working with them, right?
That's weird.
Rob Portman. Jen Psaki held a press conference last night and says that Biden will be actively involved in these negotiations with Republicans in Congress. Let's listen to Jen Psaki. This was her nightly press conference, and she had a lot of interesting things to say about it. Let's listen.
Just two COVID questions. Any update as to whether the president may sit down with congressional leaders to discuss and try and hammer out this package?
Like, to elaborate on that?
I will say, without giving you specifics necessarily, but
why? Because I'm listening to politics.
Walk myself
It's
into
weird.
that rabbit hole, right. But the president has already done a number of calls with Democrats and Republicans.
Too much intelligence going on right now?
To be closely involved, roll up his sleeves and be making calls himself. I don't soon, but I don't have an update on any meeting. I will though just add, just for context, I know
No,
that
this was weird.
what the
You're
recording
up at
is, your recording, I suppose, about the meeting this weekend.
7,
I've got out
9 in
there,
the
and obviously
morning.
Brian confirmed it. There are a lot of meetings happening at one time
Texting
with a
me.
lot of different
Put your
officials. So
show on.
I wouldn't see that as like this is the
You ain't got one to
negotiating
put on.
tool. That is one
That's
of
weird.
many engagements and one of many discussions that the president, the vice president, senior members of the White House team are having and are ongoing.
Right now, is he confident that you have enough Democrats on board?
I'm sitting here listening to politics. You want some of my attention? That's weird.
He announced the plan.
See, that was a question. Do we have enough Democrats on board to pass the stimulus? And I thought her sort of, oh, I wasn't expecting.
I can't really see too tough in your avatar picture. From a distance, you look like a black guy, but you up. You wake up on 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday hating on the next black man and shit. That's weird.
A massive stimulus package, $2 trillion. Only a few weeks after they passed a $900 billion package. That's a good question. How does she answer?
You ain't get no pussy from that bitch last night you was texting.
His view is that
You wake up
this is how
texting me like some sort of
democracy
weird
works,
pussy.
which is the
That's
president of
weird.
the United States announces what his vision is and what his proposed plan is to address the crises the American people are facing. Then there are ongoing discussions with Congress. They like some pieces, they don't like other pieces. You all have seen Democrats like many pieces, Republicans even like some of the pieces too, and he's had those encouraging conversations. But the final package may not look exactly like the package that he proposed. That's okay. That's how the legislative process should work. Go ahead, Justin.
You know, as I'm listening to Jen there, I was reading some of your comments in the chat, and I'm seeing Lauren just said, like, my mom, Lauren Stiver says, my mom's looking to pass away because she can't afford a dialysis.
Oh no, man. You a whole goofball with sunglasses on in the house. That's
Your
weird.
mom is thinking, you know what, I just can't afford the dialysis, so
No.
I'm just going to die during a pandemic. Because we don't have a government that takes care. We don't have a government that takes care of our people. You know, I hear Bernie Sanders, people want to ask him about the sort of the pomp and circumstance of the inauguration the other day, and he just goes right back to like what he's focused on.
What is that?
This is exactly what we need to be focusing on, is helping people like Lauren and her family.
Nah, man. Before you text to me talking about things is weird, make sure your shit in order. Make sure you know how to spell. Just for starters, when you starting to text disrespectfully to somebody else, make sure you don't look stupid as fuck. Now, just to help you out, there is no E in weirdo. Additionally, there is no I, there is no E. You all over the place with your vowels. There's no I's and E's in man either.
I mean, it really is. So we're going to keep our eye on this package. I think the Washington Post has it right. I think Jeff Stein has it right. That you cannot do both. You can either get a big stimulus package, or you can get a bipartisan.
Pack your shit and keep it moving, man.
And you can't do both. 2 inhalers, Mr. Shark says. My 2
Everything's
inhalers are
politics, man.
$437 a month. Axel the Bounty Hunter, thank you for your super chat. Says my Suboxone is over $600 a month. Jeremy Gatto says I own a small business and worry about doubling my payroll at 15.
No matter.
And
And it don't matter the content of conversation. Make it mean something, you know what I'm saying? Don't waste my time with bullshit like that. Nah. Your mother's a weirdo for not swallowing it.
Full details of that package.
Fuck out of here, nigga.
Shaw B says I'm tired of this. I've had COVID, still haven't fully recovered.
Oh,
This
man.
is days late week and this week without pay. I need help. but I'm blessed.
Over here with 2 watches on this shit, but I'm the weirdo,
You know,
right?
that's the thing that Republicans don't seem to understand. It's like,
Nigga don't know how to spell, can't tell the time. And you know that shit straight, that's that fake jewelry shit, man. Come on, man.
You have your salary.
That's how you punk ass niggas fronting your avatars. Nigga, put your stream up.
The problem with, you know, of course, this government-run healthcare program right now is mostly
Oh,
garbage,
nigga.
and it's expensive. And that's why we need to completely overhaul our medical system in this country. And we need Medicare for all. No one in this country should be paying $500 for a freaking inhaler. It's awful. There shouldn't be any question, like whether or not you know, if you've got an elderly parent, they should be taken care of. It shouldn't be a question. Medications, you shouldn't be going $25,000 into debt and putting medications on your credit card to live. And that's what people are doing. It's awful. And right now, we should mention that $15 minimum wage is for federal employees. So it's a federal program. It has nothing to do with, but there is, of course, a move to make it a mandate nationally as well for businesses. But right now, it's a federal program for $15. But a lot of states have already taken it upon themselves to do that anyway. Florida being one of them. There's a bunch of other states that are already rolling out $15 an hour minimum wage. Sorry, coffee didn't kick in. It's like you just wait for that coffee to click, click. Any other questions coming in here in the super chat? Carlos says my wife's lupus treatment is $3,000 a month.
Oh, damn. Pounds.
Lisa Lang says, I don't think the $15 an hour is a good idea. Small companies are not going to be able to pay all employees. And a guy in a skilled manufacturing job making $15 an hour, but someone at Taco Bell will now make $15 an hour. But why shouldn't the person at Taco Bell have a living wage? You know, I get the skilled manufacturing. I also get the fact that someone working at Taco Bell should have a living wage. They shouldn't have to work 2 jobs to take care of their family. You know, by also providing this child tax credit, providing a living wage, which still, by the way, it's well below what it should be. It should be at $23 an hour. The pharmaceutical companies, Terry Ann, says, you know, who regulates the price of medications in this country? There's no regulation for it. It's ridiculous.
Free for all.
There is no control. They're greedy pharmaceutical companies. Know that they can just run up the prices. You do not in other countries have television ads for medicines. We in the United States have television ads for all sorts of medicines, right? Why do you think they spend millions of dollars during football games and so forth? So you're watching television and you see an ad for some random medication that you're like, yeah, maybe I do have a sore foot. I'm going to take this new medication that treats sore feet. So you call up your doc. Hey, doc, I just saw this on TV and my foot is hurting. There's a new medicine for it. Whether you need it or not, maybe it's the shoe you're wearing, right? No, we need a medicine for it. And oh, by the way, we'll charge a lot for it. Now let's get you on a prescription. That's how we roll in the United States. It's awful. Tammy Valadez says, I do have many doctor's bills. It's affecting my credit score. Yeah, here's another issue, right? We could pass as part of the stimulus package that if you have bad debt as a result of COVID-related issues and debts, that it shouldn't affect your credit score. But the sad part is the United States is so based on credit and credit scores. For you to get anything meaningful done in your life, like get a loan, etc., get a car payment, get a phone, get a cellular phone, you need a good credit score. And now so many credit scores are going to be screwed because of COVID. John Shanks, thank you for your super chat. Says Maryland is expected to be a $15 an hour minimum wage by 2025. We were at $11.75. Been watching for 10 months now. Thank you for the truth. I love this channel. I hope your dad is doing well. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Yeah, my dad, just moved into a new long-term care facility after his stroke, and then got COVID a few weeks ago. So it's not good. Needs like 24-hour assistance to get moving and so forth. Thank you, John, for your thoughts on that. Rumple Gold. So many of us in my generation, millennials, decided we didn't want to risk the debt and didn't go to college, and we work where we can. Didn't want to risk the debt, didn't go to college, and we work where we can. It's so sad, Rumple. Thank you for your super chat. That in the United States, you'd have to choose from not going to college because you can't afford it, and going massively into debt, student loan debt, and being set back years because now you're paying off student loan debt to become a teacher. Like, come on. We need to have free public college in the United States like they do in Europe and other parts of the industrialized world. You can go to Europe and get a better education than you can in the United States and at the university level for free. Boop. Heck, even where it's not free and it's considered slightly expensive is in England, is in London area. And some of those schools are like $2,000 a year. At most, $2,500, $3,000 a year for excellent education. And that is like the most expensive. You go to the Netherlands for free. Portugal for free. Italy for free. Denmark free. Norway free. Free public college. You can become a doctor for free. A lawyer for free. And then don't waste your time with 2 years of like repeating the same classes you took in high school just so you can fulfill credits. When I went to the University of Pittsburgh, I got a history degree, I got a broadcast journalism self-design degree that I had to do there, so I got 2 degrees. Went into student loan debt, of course, and it was brutal. But for the first 2 years, they make you take all these random credits. Like I took astronomy classes. I like astronomy, but I'm not going to become an astronomer. They make you take all these other random liberal arts classes, repeating stuff I just took in high school. So instead of going for 4 years, we could go for 2.5 and be done, and actually have the degree that you want, instead of wasting all this time and money. All these for-profit colleges. That's the problem. We have these for-profit colleges. We have a for-profit prison system. Massive pharmaceutical greed running amok over the United States, and Congress that makes so much money off of all these lobbyists, off of the for-profit prison system, pharmaceutical companies, big oil, big gas. Why haven't we moved more towards electric cars, electric infrastructure? Big oil, big gas. It's easy to track all of this stuff, right? It's easy to track the tire lobby in the United States pushing for the the national, what's the word I'm looking for? The massive highways across the United States under Eisenhower. Let's build this big infrastructure of highways across the United States so that Goodyear and Firestone tires can make a lot of money, because now we have trucks instead of trains. Let's do that instead of build out our train infrastructure in the United States, so we can just curry favor with the tire and oil and gas lobby. That's how it works. Let's see what other chat's coming in here. Good morning, everyone. How many of you are subscribers to our morning newsletter? I just saw we had about 700 of you sign up overnight. I'm going to hit you back with a lot of emails, so thank you so much if you did. But you can sign up for free to get our morning newsletter by going to morninginvest.com. That's our link. Put in your email address. You'll get a welcome email after you sign up. Once you get that welcome email, just respond and let me know that you got it, because it comes right from my email address. So just, once you get that welcome email, hit me back. That makes sure that it's not in your spam folder or your junk folder. So just go to morninginvest.com. It's totally free to get our free morning newsletter. We do it Monday through Friday. We take the weekend off. When we cover the news, and the first thing in the morning you can have over your cup of coffee. Mocha Mackenzie says, I'm in England, I can go to college without paying. Yeah, Mocha, I think in like right near London, there's some of those colleges that at most are like $2,000 to $3,000. Don't quote me on that, but Most of England's free for college, free public college, paid for. And you think, oh, then it must be crappy colleges, must be crappy universities. No, quite the opposite. Isn't that stunning? That kids in Europe get a better education at the university level than we do in the United States for free. And then our kids are in debt, $50,000, $60,000. And by the way, it has an adverse effect on black Americans. Yeah, you know, traditionally black colleges, I mean, these student loan debt that they end up sitting on is ridiculous. More than white Americans. Shocking, I know. Once again. So this would be, you know, this is a way of elevating classes in our society by eliminating these things, raising the minimum wage, providing free public college. Like I talked about last night, this sort of huge breakthrough story last night. If you missed our show last night, I talked about what President Biden and senior Democrats are getting ready to do, which is to give parents $3,000 per child and up to $3,600 per children under 6 years old. So it doesn't matter how many children you have, under this new plan that's being drafted by Democrats, you would receive $3,000 for a child that's over 6 years old, up to 17 years old, and if the child is under 6, you'd get $3,600. You would likely, under the proposal, get access to a treasury.gov account that you could log in, and you could say, you know what, I just want all $3,600 right now instead of having it doled out as $300 over the year. Like, these are all part of this proposal right now that Democrats are working on.
Not bad.
Unbelievable. Demetria Middleton. By the way, Demetria, I think I saw your email, and you sent me an email that says, Clayton, you didn't respond to my last email. I didn't see your last email, but I did respond to your most recent email. So just check your inbox and just let me know what question you had. I'm happy to help you. Any questions you have. See any other super chats? Amy Williams, thank you for your super chat. If Congress paid in FICA on their salaries, we could pay for UBI with that. Yeah, good point. We need universal basic income in the United States. Nicole Johnson, here's a good canard. Nicole Johnson, we're going to do a show. I want to dive deeper. Maybe we'll spend some more time tomorrow talking about minimum wage. But there's a lot of false reports that Republicans have been foisting for years on minimum wage. This idea that making the minimum wage $15 an hour would cause everything else to go up. So we're going to go into that because, you know, there's a lot of arguments against that hypothesis, and there's really no evidence that that actually happens at all. So we'll show you some of that evidence tomorrow on the show. Larry Nieves says, you can even be a doctor for free in Cuba, and that's a communist country. I know. Well, I love how we've vilified all of these ideas of, you know, government providing and helping its people. Americans have been just shoveled a pile of crap for so long. We've been lied to and lied to and lied to by both Democrats, frankly, and Republicans. More by Republicans. You know, you need to be on your own. You need to be self-sufficient. That's the American way, the John Wayne way, right? You're smoking that cigarette, riding your horse. I got this. And that the government shouldn't give a rat's behind about you. But the problem is when government actually actively starts hurting you,
Putting you in that position.
which is what they do. When the government actually goes out of its way to marginalize and push people down and keep people from making an effective, minimum wage in this country, health care. Like, how can you get us started in life if you have a medical condition and you can't even afford your medical bills? How can you start a business? You can in other countries because the government would be taking care of you. And you'd be an active participant in society by creating a business, hiring people, employing people. And the government has taken care of you so that you can do so. Oh, by the way, it provided free public college also, so you can educate yourself and become a doctor or a lawyer. Imagine if a child growing up in a family, none of the members of the family have ever gone to college because they couldn't afford it. Now, because we have free public college, imagine if that young boy, that young girl, for the first time, gets to go and get a second postgraduate degree, gets to become a lawyer, gets to become an architect, and contribute to society. How much more would we get back from that person than by that person not having that, turning to a life of crime, all kinds of problems, and then we'd have to support that person in another way. Imagine, by supporting them with free public college, what that person could do. Well, you don't have to imagine it, because that's what other big industrialized countries do, and it works. We already know that it works. Just look at Norway, look at Finland, look at the Nordic countries. You don't have that type of poverty. You have a higher standard of living, and you have a market economy that works for its people. So if you agree with me, smash that like button. If you agree with this, should we push for free public college? Should we push for Medicare for all? Smash that like button if you agree with me. And I'd love also to have you subscribe to our channel here, which you can do right down here. Just hit the little Morris Invest, the Morning Invest logo, which looks like the one on my sweatshirt, right here. So right next to it, actually. Hit it right there. Yeah, so hit my sweatshirt and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Someone was asking, is that a silver play button back there? Yes. That's yes, over there. That's we're hitting 100,000 subscribers. YouTube sends you a silver play button when you hit 100,000 subscribers. So we're almost close to 500,000 subscribers.
Gold.
Cy Whitworth, yeah, you can hit me up. It's at Clayton@morninginvest.com. Yes, agree. Wow, Rob 80 in our super chat. Rob says my daughter leaves next Sunday for the university in Denmark. It's at least a 2 USC level or higher options, free for her as a dual citizen. Can you imagine? Why do you think so many Americans are moving to Europe and Canada? Because those are countries that care for its people. If you had the opportunity with young kids right now, and you're thinking, okay, what should I make that move? Should I seriously consider making the move? Facing my fears and moving to Europe or moving to Canada or moving to a country that would take care of you, and then establishing citizenship or residency, working towards citizenship, which most countries it takes like 5 years, and then having dual citizenship where you could go to public college in one of those countries, have your children do that for free and get a better education and have health care.
Got it.
Something to consider. It's not crazy. That's why a lot of people are doing it. Angela Dixon says, what about the people that are already making $15 an hour? Will they get a pay raise as well? That's a good question. I don't know at the federal level what that's going to mean for a federal level. It might mean a pay raise, but this is just to stabilize and make sure that the people who are making below that, then it needs to hit that $15 an hour at the federal level.
15 is good.
Joe Ruiz says, Clayton, minimum wage stays incredibly low, but inflation goes up every year. Exactly. And prayers to your dad. Thank you, Joe. Right, so what if we tied minimum wage to inflation? Every year, that dollar that's in your wallet is going down in value, while minimum wage continues to stay the same. So that dollar continues to be worth less and less and less, right? It's instead of it being worth $1, it's worth 95 cents, then it's worth 92 cents. So that dollar is less, but you're still making the same, makes 0 cents. And we know, by the way, that paying employees more and providing them with a better work environment, it keeps employee retention higher, keeps them happier and more productive. We know that. Jeff S&G says, please tell everyone to watch Requiem of an American Dream. It will show you exactly how we're battling the corporate government that we have. Yeah, well, check that out. By the way, if you guys should check out, I know, say what you will about Michael Moore. You know, some people can find him, whatever, rub you the wrong way. But watch the movie. Do me a favor. See if you can watch it tonight. It's on Netflix if you have Netflix, or if you have another way to watch it. And it might even be free somewhere. But anyway, if you have Netflix, watch it tonight. Set aside some time tonight and do me a favor, because I'm going to ask you tomorrow on the show how many of you got a chance to watch it. It's mind-blowing. It's called Who Should We Invade Next is the name of the movie. And the conceit of the movie is that Michael Moore says, you know, America has stolen ideas from around the world for years, right? Well, now I'm going to invade these other countries to find out what ideas they are doing so well that we are not, and I'm going to steal them and bring them back to America. That's the conceit of the movie, and that's a pretty funny idea. So he goes to Norway to study like their prison system, and like they have no crime, and like how these prisoners they don't even like they're not even in a jail. They don't have a for-profit prison system. And he's like, how is this possible? And it was eye-opening. Then he goes to Portugal. He's like, why do you have no crime, no drug crime? How did you guys do it? They have, and guess what? Countries from around the world have flown to Portugal to figure out how Portugal has zero crime, virtually zero crime, and it's the third safest country in the world because they eliminated drug crime and drug arrests, and now they help people instead of locking them up. It's a whole new, you know. Then he goes to Italy, and he sees how they actually have a productive day, how they actually manage to make cars and trucks and manufacturing, and they all take like an hour and a half lunch. And they're paid a good wage, and they're given a whole month off for vacation. And they're more productive than we are in the United States. How is it possible? So it's a fascinating movie. If you've never seen it, go watch it. Watch it with an open mind, especially the French part when you get to see how France with the school lunches. And it's not just France, by the way. It's all over Europe. The school lunches are actually healthy, like a roast chicken, vegetables, vegetable soup, not processed food like we do in the United States. They actually have chefs in the schools, like a chef, a French chef in the school system. So go watch it. If you're not familiar with it, it'll blow your mind and maybe start to get the wheels turning thinking about how we've been lied to in the United States. We've been told that these other countries, you're going to worry about being a socialist country. It's such garbage. It's such garbage. The reason they're lying to you and feeding you that line of crap is because they don't want to spend the money to help you. They want to spend the money to prop up businesses so they can continue to make money. That's how they do it. And that's the only reason. Follow the money, folks. What else do we have here? News Paula says, in a super chat, thank you. I pay $650 a month in medical and pay $12 for a copay, and I have over 10 prescriptions to buy a month. That's not including dental and vision. That's highway robbery. Dan Page says, SSA recipients are on a fixed income. I make less than $9,000 a year, and I can't live on that. Will they raise SS? Well, that's the thing. Joe Biden had been opposed. He also wanted to cut Social Security back in the day. That's something that he had to reverse if he was going to win this election. I don't know where the president comes down on Social Security right now. They absolutely need to raise Social Security benefits in this country. It's like, you know, it's 1980s level. Actually, it's a 1970s level, Social Security. Monique Wood says, hey Clayton, I think the U.S., thank you for your super chat, I think the U.S. needs to realize its people now have more access to see what other countries are doing for their people, and they need to catch up. Yeah, now with the internet, Monique, I mean, you can watch a movie like that, read a book called Angrynomics. It's a fascinating book called Angrynomics. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's a short read, but once you understand that this idea of austerity, this idea that, hey, we're going to try to not spend any money on our people at all, it fails. It does not work, and it leads to ruin. When the country actually spends money on its people and takes care of them, prosperity. It's a remarkable concept, isn't it? Marcella Marie says, watch The Green Inferno. Wanted to say my job did raise the $15 last week and made MLK a paid holiday. Others got a raise as well. Love you guys. Thank you. Well, that's great news, Marcella. Way to go. And good for your employer for doing that. Thank you for all of our new channel members, too. Hey, Rumble Gold. No, I don't do that. Thank you, though, for asking that. But, I mean, if you want to leave on, or if you go to morninginvest.com, you can actually leave some voicemail questions, anything you have, and we're going to start to ramp that up here on the show. So if you go to morninginvest.com, over here you'll see this little microphone button on the right-hand side. You can click to send a voicemail message, and it'll say send a voice message to us, and we can play it right here on the show. So any questions you have, you just click on it. Try to keep it to like 30 seconds or so, and don't make it too long, and try to include more of those in the show. So when you're over there, subscribe to the... Carolyn Wheeler says, on the Webull thing, do I need to click margin account or cash account? Margin is for like more advanced investors, Carolyn. I would just go with the cash account. That way, if you have, $10 you want to invest in a stock, you can do that way. So just do a cash account. Tammy Valdez says, a job started back this week, but I'm unable to work because of rotator cuff surgery. Sorry to hear that. And yes, if you're joining us late, Larry King had passed away. It was breaking news before our show started this morning. Broadcast legend, 87 years old. I always liked Larry King because he would actually listen to his guests, and he would let that drive the conversation of his shows. If his guest said something that was interesting, he would go deeper into that point. Whereas a guy like Jay Leno didn't care what you said, he'd just read off of his cards. You could say something profound. Like, there's actually YouTube videos called, like, watch Jay Leno not pay attention to his guests. like people say something interesting, and Jay Leno just goes on to his next card question. It's like, not a fan of Jay Leno, sorry. I was always a Letterman person my whole life. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate all of your time today. Just wanted to jump on and do a Saturday show. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel and being a part of this great community here, helping us to educate other people. You can always share our show with other people. And if I brought you any value at all, please smash that like button today and subscribe to the channel. It's very easy to subscribe. Just right down here, hit that little Morning Invest logo. And we're live every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I've been doing these weekend shows lately. I mean, I do them Monday through Friday. And I've just been, because I love doing the show, so I've been doing the weekend show as well. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I bring you value. So much love to all of you. We will see you back here again real soon. Stay safe, everyone, and be kind to each other, okay? Be kind to each other. Love you guys.
Come on, man.
Here's the link. Join up. Feed your brain. y'all can't read and shit. Be having issues reading and writing. Have a good one. Catch you on the next one. I forgot day in there and shit. But you know.